Hey there, friend, lend me your ear, and I'll lend you mine. We'll be just fine. Let's kick this into gear. Let's go, friend. Let's go, friend. Talk about it, be about it, be golden. And I'm gonna talk about it, be about it.
Hey there, friend. I am JT. You probably know that already. And if you're watching this, we probably have talked about a podcast at some point. And I have created this video, or I am creating this video, so that we can talk about what the podcast is, why I started a podcast, and hopefully answer any questions you might have. I'm going to share my screen so I can show you some slides. So the podcast is called Best Day Ever. And the tagline is Evolutionary Conversations with Anti-Ordinary Individuals. Evolutionary conversations. I feel like some of the conversations I've had in the past couple of years have been evolutionary. They help me transcend what I currently understand as the way to live the best life. And really, there's like eternal truths that come out in some conversations that help you realize what you need to do to live the best day ever. Anti-ordinary individuals. I just made that word up because extraordinary never made sense to me. Like you're so ordinary that you're extraordinary. So anti-ordinary is a good thing. It means that there's something unique about you, basically. And everybody has uniqueness that benefits society in one way or another. So I'd like to talk a little bit about like what started this desire to record conversations with individuals who had some kind of a spark of inspiration when I talked to them. And basically, it comes from these 13 words that I've developed over time. Too many dwell in silent despair, their true purpose unrealized, songs yet unsung. I lived a lot of my adult life in silent despair. I didn't know how to be authentic, and I did not know how to show vulnerability. I was taught from a young age that that was not acceptable in society, in my society anyway, in my reality. But a couple of years ago, I awakened to that realization that I wasn't living my purpose. And since I started down this new path, I've had a great desire to hear the songs and to sing a song of my own, even though I'm tone deaf and you don't want to hear me singing. I love music, and the song in this quote is kind of metaphorical. It might be helping children. It might be working with veterans. Whatever the purpose is that makes you feel fulfilled in life, that's your song. And so I developed a website called songseekers.org. It's still under development, but it's meant to be kind of a haven for everybody that's either singing a song or looking for a song, a community of people trying to help each other live a better life. And from that kind of grew this desire to record some of these conversations I have been having with people so that what they have told me can benefit countless other people. So The overture, or the goal of this podcast, is to echo powerful ballads, casting bright light into the shadows. I've been witness to that, where the knowledge and surety of someone who has learned something, what I call an eternal truth, has helped cast light into the shadows and dispel the fear that normally resides there. I'd like to talk about a few guidelines. This podcast is meant to be something that anyone can listen to without feeling singled out or minimized. And it's probably an impossibility, right? Trying to cater to every um, sensitivity that there is in the world. But I think with some of these guidelines in place, it will be a more accepting environment for the majority of people who want to attend. So first of all, you are the song singer. I don't want to talk about my story. I want to talk about your story. And so basically, I challenge you to think about if you had an hour to talk about anything that you've experienced in your life with the intent of transforming a life, or um, letting people know kind of the essence of what you've learned, how to live an authentic, how to live a good and virtuous life, what would you say? Some of the things that you might think of, or the challenges you've overcome in your life, what you feel your purpose is, or multiple purposes. Everybody has many things that they feel passionate about to different levels or degrees. What are your driving motivations in life? And then what are the life lessons that you have uh, put together in order to confront the challenges that you encounter every day? I mean, everybody has challenges every day. That's the way life hands us our portions, right? Um, how do you keep on bouncing back when that happens time and time again? In order to allow you to tell your story, I've set up the format of this podcast to be anonymous at the beginning. I will not use your name. And at the end of the podcast, I'll ask you 3 questions. The first question is, can I, excuse me, can I put this recording on the internet? And that's your permission that you're giving me to publish it. The second question is, do you want me to put it with the video, or do you just want to leave the audio only? And if you've said some things that you'd rather it not be known that it was you who was on the podcast, you can choose just an audio, like a telephone call, and I'll put the audio out there and delete the video, or put it in the archive in case you want to put it out there later on. And the third question is, do you want to introduce yourself to the audience? And that gives you a chance to reflect on what you've talked about. And if you decide that, yeah, I'd like to introduce myself, then you can tell people your name, what you do, maybe whatever information you want to share with the audience at the end of the podcast. Really, the goal is to embrace authenticity and vulnerability over, how slick and stylish the presentation is. I think anybody who's watching this podcast will know that it's not slick and polished. So don't worry about if you need to take a moment to compose your thoughts, and uh, it's all okay. We're all just going to talk and enjoy the time together. So don't be stressed about that. Please refrain from using profanity because my mom is going to be watching these things, and she doesn't she doesn't deal with profanity very. She just, you know, it's not just her. Uh, I tend to want to avoid offending people when possible, and profanity it offends people. So beliefs and values are invited, but things about us versus them, anything where you're talking about groups of people, uh, politics comes to mind, religions come to mind. Um, I would like to ask you to try not to talk about, you know, my group is the right group because of these reasons, but instead talk about my values are these, and these are the reasons why I have these values and beliefs and traditions. The target length is going to be 45 minutes to an hour. I will, at the 45-minute mark, just let you know, hey, we're coming up 15 minutes left. So if there's like a moral to the story that you're telling or something that you want to bring about in those last few minutes, then it'll give you time to figure out what you want to say. And if we're having a good time and you have another segment that you want to record because you didn't have enough time to tell your whole story, or you have another story, if we have the time, we could do that, or set up another time that we could do another session. I'm going to call them songs, these episodes, not episodes, because we're singing our song, right? So if your song exceeds an hour, we can always do another. And if I have to edit anything, I will try my best to honor the spirit of your words, and I will uh, share with you the edited version to make sure you're okay with it before I put it out there. All right, so those are the guidelines. Pretty simple. Uh, you can choose what you want to talk about. We need to talk about when to schedule the podcast and where. So that's the other thing is I like to record the podcast at the place where the interviewee, that's you, wants to. So if you want to do it outside, or if you want to do it in your living room, or if you want to do it at my house, or if you want to do it on the road, just let's plan that out. So yeah, if there's any questions beyond this, uh, you can reach out to Sigourney, my associate, or myself, and we'll talk through any details that you have questions about. Okay, so if you've heard my story, I would invite you to, you don't have to listen to the rest of this. It's a story I've told many times, and it's full of negative things, dark things, and it's not to say that my whole life was very dark and negative. There were a lot of good times in my youth and in my adolescence and in my adulthood, but the reason why my story, the way I share it, focuses on the dark part of my life is because um, I don't want to spend all day, talking about me. And if I just tell you how some of these things happened in my life that caused me to go down this road where I felt lost, um, it it helps to make it a shorter story, I guess. I grew up in a culture where being good meant being obedient to a strict code. I was I don't know. I had questions. I didn't always find the answers, but I learned to just kind of go along with the flow because there was pressure to conform. Seemed like appearances mattered. Vulnerability was seen as a weakness, and it was like everybody kind of played their part in society. It was what we knew. It was what we were comfortable with, even though I wasn't very comfortable with a lot of the things that I was doing and thinking. Um, but that's just, I think that's not uncommon for people to feel that way in as they grow up in society in any role. In my situation, faith, duty, and reputation were kind of pillars that you balanced on. And if you started to wobble, you learned how to like smile and straighten up before anyone noticed and just play the game. That's kind of how I felt, like I was playing a game, but where I didn't really understand the rules. And as a young man, I felt pressure to know what I was doing, to portray confidence that I had a plan, that I was everything was good, but I didn't know what I was doing, and I didn't know how to find the answers to what to do. I was I was scared, I was unsure of myself. It was like I was looking for a map, but I was pretending I had a map kind of thing. And there was a dissonance there where, I think everyone has felt cognitive dissonance where you hear one thing, but you don't think that you're hearing the truth. But everybody seems to be accepting it as the truth. And that's kind of how my story begins. That's the type of structure that I grew up in. So I have to blame my mom for all of my woes because she made me take a picture with a doll when I was a baby. And also when I was a youngster, I realized that I couldn't see. And so I had very thick glasses. They were Coke bottles. And I don't have that many pictures of when I was younger because I wasn't really proud of myself. I had really bad acne. You can kind of see it in this picture here at the bottom. And in this picture, people made fun of my big lips. They were like, I didn't understand it, but yeah, kids make fun of a lot of different things. So here's like an idea of how bad that vision was. Um, they call those uh, BCG's, birth control goggles, in the army, and I had to wear those in basic training. It wasn't fun. I, you know, I at an early age, I learned how to use humor as like a shield, pushing people away with sarcasm and humor instead of letting down my defenses in any way. And I refer to it as wearing a mask. I started to learn how to wear masks when I was young, and I didn't know how to be vulnerable. I didn't know how to be authentic. That's the bottom line. And on top of that, I had guilt. I was like, I was addicted to pornography as a youth. Um, I had dealt with kleptomania. I liked to lie, and then telling lies after lies. It was hard to keep things straight after a while. I wasn't very, I wasn't very grounded in any way. I was very confused, and in my mind there was a lot of turmoil, a lot of turmoil. And I think over time, as I look back, it seems like there was an increasing distance between um, my outer portrayal of who I was and how I felt inside. As I grew up, I didn't have a belief in forgiveness. I felt like I was a sinner that didn't want to stop sinning, and I wasn't going to go to heaven. And I was afraid to die. I was afraid to go to hell. And I didn't know how to fix it. So this was kind of how I grew up. I think it was kind of a duplicitous life. As um, I reached adulthood, I was living a double life. And I went on a mission for my church and went down to Central America. And I, I really, more than wanting to serve a mission to convert people, I think I mostly served it because I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. And I saw it as a way to buy some time. But I did start to embrace the uh, the purpose and the spirit of the mission once I started getting used to the language, and I found a place in that life, and I was feeling pretty good about it. But as I got more confident with the language and um, with myself, I realized that I was quite popular down in Honduras because I was tall and I looked different than everybody else, and so I started feeling noticed for the first time. And I uh, I started to pay attention to women in a way that I shouldn't have, because missionaries aren't supposed to have any kind of romantic relationships while they're on a mission. So I I I don't know if it was love or just infatuation with the first person that paid attention to me, but I fell in I was enamored by someone, and I got in trouble and I got sent away from that area to another area. But um, I continued to pursue that relationship in inappropriate ways, and I got sent home early. And that was a true level of shame that I had not felt before, because it involved my parents, it involved the members of the church that I attended. To walk into the church 6 months before you're supposed to and explain that you failed is not a good feeling. And I ran away as soon as I could. And I lived with my brother for a while. And I convinced myself and everyone else around me that to fix this problem, which was my guilt or shame that I felt, I was going to go get married to that person and fix it that way. But now, with hindsight, I know that that was not the right thing to do. I should not have gotten married because I felt guilty. And it was just another sign of kind of how I was living this life. So I did get married, and I spent 20 years in that marriage. I had a stepson and two two children through that marriage, and there was a lot of good times, but I tried to put on a mask of normalcy. Everything's cool, but underlying that was this resentment and the guilt and the dissatisfaction when I realized like there was some compatibility issues that I didn't know anything about because I hardly knew this person, and I felt like a hypocrite as a parent. I didn't think that, how could I share things with my kids that like, how can I tell them to do the right thing when I'm not doing the right thing? And it was, it was kind of a miserable way to live, pretending to be happy, but not really being happy. So I lost my job. I served in the army for 10 years, got out. I was living uh, in Utah, and I lost my job and I had to start looking for a new one. And I found one in San Antonio, Texas, and I moved there, but I left my family in Utah and then I quit. I took that separation, that physical separation, as an opportunity to bail. And luckily, my kids were then, just graduating high school and ready to kind of branch out on their own, but I know they felt some sense of abandonment. And I know that I was a coward in the way that I just did that. But I was finally free, right? I was single and I wasn't going to church. I was just going to figure out what to do with my life. So I started drinking and I started dating. And I wanted to uh, spend at least a year dating so that I could know, like, who is my type and, all that stuff. That lasted for about a month before I met somebody that kind of made me feel like this is somebody special. And so that's kind of where um, I made a conscious decision because of compatibility. And, um, you know, it wasn't a long courtship, but it was longer than what I gave myself in my first marriage. And I really feel like that was, kind of soulmate material, the person that I met. But I was still hiding. I was still wearing a mask. I was still lying. I didn't know how to turn that stuff off. And so the whole relationship, while there was attraction and love, there was also pain and difficult conversations. I had all this guilt from my first marriage, from not being a good father. I never dealt with that in a healthy way. And I self-sabotaged this relationship. I I felt rejection by some of the people in the house, and so I decided to go live in the workshop. You know, Later on I got diagnosed with bipolar disorder, and bipolar disorder I think comes from living this type of a life, but one of the one of the byproducts of bipolarism is that you have faulty thinking. It's hard to make good decisions when you're either depressed or manic to the point where you're telling yourself things. I guess delusional thinking might be appropriate uh, to uh, to describe it. But I wasn't making good decisions, and I started lying more. I started playing the martyr, telling people that this wasn't my fault. This was their fault, casting blame on everyone but me. And I left. I left. I went on road trips. I tried to get away. Then I come back and try to reconcile the situation. But those cycles of living into the house and out of the house and in Texas and out of Texas culminated in the end of 2022 being one of the darkest times of my life. Um, I was just very lost and making very bad decisions and basically not honoring the relationship that I was in at any level. So, in the midst of all that, I mean, my best friend was still there trying to reach out to me, trying to talk to me in some kind of a way. And she sent me a message telling me that there was a show called Stutz on Netflix. And she recommended that I watch it. And I did. I watched it. And it's a show about Jonah Hill, the actor, and his relationship with Phil Stutz, who is a psychiatrist. And Phil Stutz has a methodology and an outlook that helped Jonah Hill so much that they made a documentary out of it. And what I took from that video was that it's healthy to share your shadow. In order to have a good relationship, you have to share your shadow. And Stutz tells you that very rarely will you experience a, an extremely negative outcome if you share your shadow. Usually, people will give you grace. But I didn't know how to apply that to myself. I saw that Jonah had a negative self image, but I didn't equate that to my own negative self image at the time. But I met to end, and I met with my best friend to end the relationship. I told her, I have to tell you what I've been up to, and I don't think you're going to want to be with me anymore after I tell you this. But to not tell you, I don't know how to continue if I don't confess everything. And so I started, for some reason, in my youth, when the mistakes I made as a missionary and even before that, and in my first marriage. And for the first time, I started to, I think, let her in for the first time. And it felt good to share that with someone, like finally have that out and just expressed. But at the same time, when I got to the end and the really bad stuff, that's when the meeting ended and she abruptly left. And I thought that was the last time I was going to talk to her. And I was at the moment of like my lowest point. I don't know if you've ever hit like a rock bottom, but I was there. I sat on that curb, just I was sobbing. I was I was a mess, and I didn't see any light anywhere. And I don't know what would have happened if I would have stayed in that situation without getting a phone call. But I did get a phone call, and it was my best friend, and she indicated that she was worried about me, and I asked her if she would come back so we could talk a little bit more, and she said yes. And that's when this story goes from bad to good. She started by telling me that I hurt her more deeply than anyone ever had in her life, and that I think is significant. I felt like I didn't really have any kind of redeeming value at all when I looked into her eyes and saw the hurt that I had caused her. And she said something like, I don't think you're evil, because I had said that, something like, I'm evil, I'm unforgivable, just get away from me. She says, I don't think you're evil, I think you're confused, and I think you need to learn how to give yourself some grace, because what you told me tonight are things that every human being deals with. You're not extra evil because you were addicted to pornography or because you cheated on your first wife or whatever it was, right? It's like people do that. And if you're sorry and you repent, then you can get over it. And you need to learn how to give yourself grace. You need to learn how to give yourself um, a little bit of grace and acceptance. And the last thing that I remember her saying was, I care about you. And that shook me to my core. That really, when you tell something to somebody thinking that it's the end and they extend grace to you when you feel like you don't deserve it, that's that's when a miracle happened to me in my heart. I uh, realized in that moment that it was me. It was all about me and what my faults were and my shortcomings. All that time of playing a victim was just contrary to making any kind of growth. And so that's on the 3rd of January 2023 is when this awakening occurred and a new path was started. So I found this picture. I thought it was kind of cool. Um, a representation of how I feel that this path has guided me, or that I've been guided along this path as I've learned how to purge toxicity from myself, how to overcome the tendencies of narcissism and a controlling nature. I was very good at gaslighting and mental manipulation and just all kinds of control tactics that I didn't even realize until that night. And I shifted from despair to transformation, and I started writing a book about a caterpillar who turned into a butterfly, and I started to look at things through a different lens. I realized, or through research on that book, I realized that caterpillars can only see black and white, and butterflies can see color. And I think that's a pretty good analogy to how I feel, what I had felt before to what I feel now. And yeah, I feel like even though I don't know everything, the way is still dark and cloudy. It's hard to know exactly where to take a step. But I now can see sparkles or like glimmers of evidence that I need to go in this direction. And I've seen blessings that I could never imagine in my life and felt a serenity and happiness that is amazing to me. I don't know how to express my gratitude for this life that I've been given. You notice that this man is alone on this path. I've been separated from my best friend for over 3 years now because of what happened, and I don't know if I'll ever have that closeness with her ever again. But the gift that she gave me of this life, I have to spend it honoring that memory of what she did for me, and that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. So how do I feel different? I realize that through failure we grow. I've learned to recognize failure as an opportunity to learn and not an opportunity to be a victim. I felt a more of an emotional compass, like a steadiness inside, learning how to accept things with grace and not be angry and upset that things aren't going my way. And I I think that like every opportunity to connect with someone is an opportunity to both receive energy and kind of a boost to your well-being, but also give um, a little bit of attention and love to the people around you. And that's what I love to do most. I tell people that my purpose is to be a friend to all and a judge to none. And I hope that I can spend the rest of my life doing that. So I am now uh, starting a new business. I have been working in the corporate world and in the military for my entire career, but I am now an integrative health coach, and I've developed something called the Purpose Guidebook and started a company called Song Seeker Solutions. And the central focus of the guidebook is this thing called the Purpose Pathfinder, where in the center you find a stage where you can strike a pose, and it should be your most authentic and the pose that you want to display to the entire world. But in order to do that, your stage has to be level, it has to be flat. And so supporting the stage is physical, mental, emotional, and lifestyle domains. And if those are all in control or where you want them to be, then your stage is flat. But if one or more of them are not in where you want them to be, then you're going to have a stage that's off center. It's hard for human beings to come up with goals or figure out how to make changes in their life if they don't have like a more focused vision of where they want to work. So these domains are broken down further into subdomains, vitality and nourishment for physical, for example. Vitality is kind of the energy that you exhibit through exercise and doing things in the world. And nourishment is kind of bringing things in to yourself. So there's kind of an inner and outer view of each one of these domains. And the guidebook walks through the process of identifying the subdomains where you want to focus your attentions to improve your balance and to have that level stage in the center. This is the work that I feel like I have been shown the path to fulfill, to help people find their purpose, realize their true potential, not dwell in despair, and sing their song. And so that's it. I appreciate your time. Now you know a little bit about my story, and we don't have to rehash that. I want to hear about you, and I cannot wait to talk to you and record our conversation. I hope that through discussing whatever we discuss, that we will be able to help other people make progress in whatever path they're walking, and heal and learn how to live their best day ever every day. So I'm going to conclude this video with playing the theme song for The Best Day Ever. I just played the first minute at the beginning of the podcast, but at the end here, I'm going to play the entire thing just so that it's out there. I love it. My brother created it with the help of a friend, and I just really enjoy listening to it, and I hope you do too. Thank you very much for considering being on the podcast, and I hope that you have a great day.
lend me your ear, and I'll lend you mine. We'll be just fine. Let's kick this into gear. Let's go, friend. Let's go, friend. Talk about it, be about it, be golden. And I'm gonna talk about it, be about it, be building. I wanna talk about it, be about it, be building. Talk about it, be about it, be building. And we eloped here for love. Then we get all nation. And I know we're going on, because the sounds are in the storm. Stand at this whisker. Let's go, friend. Let's go, friend. You talk about it, be about it, be baby. And I wanna talk about it, be about it, be baby. I wanna talk about it, be about it, be baby. You talk about it, be about it, be let's go, friend. Talk about it, be about it, be baby. Yeah, I've been talk about it, be about it, be baby. Oh, the talk about it, be about it, be baby. You talk